Today, let us have a discussion on environmental education and scope of environmental studies. In the present era, environmental education has become prime importance. It can be asked why this scientific discipline becomes significant. It is because existence and development of any organism is related to the environment. Every organism is surrounded by materials and the forces that constitute its environment. Every organism derives its requirement from the environment. The survival of any organism requires a steady supply of materials and the removal of waste products which require interaction with its environment. Continuation of the life and the survival of the species in Earth demands a stable environment system along with sustainable utilization of its resources. In spite of its importance, degradation of the environment has become a serious problem for the existence of human beings and other organisms. Human beings are consuming natural resources at an alarming rate. We are polluting the environment at a higher rate than the nature can maintain itself. We are disturbing the complex and the interdependent relationship of the physical, chemical, and the biological components of the environment. Such unsustainable practice to meet the demand for human consumption and the need are threatening our environment. With the future of human and other organisms on stake, consciousness for safeguarding environment has increased in the recent years. Before discussing the concepts of the environmental education, we need to understand what actually is the environment. There are various definitions. The word environment is derived from the French word environ. Simply, we can say that everything surrounding us is called environment. In brief, anything what presents outside an individual is environment. The nature to which we belong represents our environment. It is not static but dynamic. It changes from time to time and place to place, some slowly or else vigorously. Environment is composed of all physical, chemical, biological, and social factors that make up the surroundings. Environment can be classified into the following categories: natural environment and social environment. Natural environment can be again divided into biotic components and abiotic components. Biotic components can be divided into producer, consumer, and decomposer. The abiotic components may be air, temperature, soil, light, water, etc. etc. It might be asked why environmental education is necessary in developing countries like India. Environmental education is a process in which individuals or population explore environmental problems, gain awareness of their environments, and acquire knowledge, skills, values, experiences. The process also imbues the determination which will enable them to act to solve present and the future environmental problems and take action to improve the environment. As such, solving environmental problems need to consider regional realities and their action should reflect global implications. With these perspectives, environmental education has been shaped in the top agenda of education planning in developing countries. Considering the uniformities of environmental education across various nations and countries, various institutions have envisioned many common programs. Environmental education can be traced back in Europe in the 18th century when Jean-Jacques Rousseau stressed the importance of the environmental focused education. Several decades later, a Swiss-born naturalist, Louis Agassiz, encouraged his students to study nature. Influence of these two thinkers helped in laying the foundation for concrete environmental education program in the 19th century and the early 20th century. The modern environmental education movement gained momentum in the late 1960s and the early 1970s. The movement arises from the necessary study and the conservation education. During this period, many people were aware of danger of nuclear fallout, chemical pesticides, air pollution, and waste. These issues raised public concern for health and the natural environment, which ultimately led to a unifying movement known as environmentalism. Environmental education was born of the realization that solving complex local and the global problems need active participation of informed public along with the significant role of politicians and the experts. The celebration of the first Earth Day on April 22, 1970 paved the way for the modern environmental education movement. In that year, the United States passed the National Environmental Education Act, which was intended to incorporate environmental education into K-12 schools. At the international level, environmental education gained recognition when the United Nations Conference on the Human Environment held in Stockholm, Sweden in 1972 declared environmental education as a tool to address global environmental problems. The United Nations Education, Scientific and Cultural Organization UNESCO and the United Nations Environmental Programme UNEP created three major declarations that have guided the course of environmental education. Number 1, Stockholm Declaration on June 5-16, 1972, Belgrade Charter on October 13-22, 1975, Tbilisi Declaration on October 14-26, 1977. Distinct milestone for environmental education was set when the UNESCO and the UNDP launched the International Program in Environmental Education in January 1975. This declaration set the goals of environmental education to develop a world population that is aware of and concerned about total environment and its associated problems, and the commitment to work individually and collectively towards solution of current problem and prevention of new ones. A number of objectives and the guiding principles for development environmental education at all levels were formulated. Important objectives include to facilitate coordination, joint plannings, pre-programming activities essential to this development of an international program of environmental education, to promote international exchange of ideas and information pertaining to environmental education, to coordinate research to understand better the various phenomena involved in teaching and learning, to formulate and evaluate new methods, materials, and the programs both in school and out of school, youth and adult, in environmental education, to train and retrain personnel to adequately staff environmental education programs, to prepare advisory services to member states relating to environmental education. Later on, in 1977, Intergovernmental Conference on Environmental Education in Tbilisi in the erstwhile USSR listed the following objectives: awareness, to help people acquire an awareness of and a sensitivity to the total environment and its allied problem; knowledge, to help people acquire basic understanding of the total environment and the associated problems and the humanity's critically responsible presence and the role in it; attitudes, to help people acquire social values, strong feelings of concern for the environment, and the motivation to act in protecting and improving it; skills, to help people acquire the skills for solving such problems; evaluation ability, to help people evaluate environmental measures and the education program in terms of ecological, political, economical, social, aesthetic, and educational factors, and participation to help people develop a sense of responsibility and urgency regarding environmental problems and the solutions. The conference stressed that environmental education should consider the environment in its totality, natural and man-made. Audit should be the lifelong process and the interdisciplinary in the approach. Environmental education focuses on, number 1, engaging with citizens of all demographics. Number 2, think critically, ethically, and creatively when evaluating environmental issues. Number 3, make educated judgments about those environmental issues. Number 4, develop skills and a commitment to act independently and collectively to sustain and enhance the environment. And number 5, to enhance their appreciation of the environment, resulting in positive environmental behavioral change. Main audience of environmental education is the general public. Environmental education is targeted at developing environmental ethics in people. It teaches people the importance of conservation of life and biodiversity. The target audience can be divided into the following categories. Number A, formal education sector in academic institutes. The audiences include students, teachers, and the environmental professionals in training and also retraining of this personnel. Number B, non-formal education sector covering youth and adults, individuals or group of people from all segments of life, workers and decision makers outside the realm of formal educational institutions. To reach these audiences, role of non-governmental organizations and the professional societies are required. Their activities supplemented and enrich the efforts of academic institutions and governmental agencies. Environmental studies are the scientific study of the environmental system and the status of the inherent or induced changes on organisms. It includes not only the study of physical and the biological characters of the environment, but also the social and the cultural factors and the impact of man on environment. Because of its multidimensional aspect, environmental study requires multidisciplinary approach. So, environmental studies require knowledge of agronomy, botany, chemistry, climatology, ecology, entomology, geography, hydrology, limnology, meteorology, zoology, medicine, human health, and various aspects of social sciences. Environmental study has multiple and multi-level scopes. The scopes are summarized as follows. Environmental study is targeted for creating awareness about various renewable and non-renewable resources of the region, along with their sustainable utilization. It provides the knowledge about ecological systems with emphasis on its components and the cause and effect relationship between the components. It provides necessary information about biodiversity richness and the potential dangers to the species of the plants, animals, and the microorganisms in the environment. The study also includes creating awareness about the causes and the consequences of natural and the man-induced disasters and the pollutions and the measures to minimize the effects. The discipline motivates the people to tackle environmental problems by evaluating alternative responses to environmental issues. It also tries to identify and develop appropriate and indigenous eco-friendly skills and technologies to various environmental issues. The study aims to enable environmentally literate persons with sound knowledge of environmental acts, rights, rules, legislations, etc., to make appropriate judgment and decisions for the protection and the improvement of the earth. The disciplines included in the environmental education are environmental sciences, environmental engineering, and environmental management. First, environmental science. It deals with the scientific study of environmental system, the inherent or induced changes on organisms, and environmental damages incurred as a result of human interaction with the environment. Second, environmental engineering. It deals with the study of technical processes involved in the protection of environment from the potentially deleterious effect of human activity and improving the environmental quality for the health and the well-being of humans. Third, environmental management. It promotes due regard for physical, social, and economic environment of the enterprise or projects. It encourages planned investment at the start of the production chain rather than forced investment in cleaning up at the end. It generally covers the areas as environment and enterprise objectives, scope, and the structure of the environment, interaction of nature, society and enterprise, environment impact assessment, economics of pollution, prevention, environmental management standards, etc. The importance of environmental studies are as follows. Number 1, to clarify modern environmental concepts like how to conserve biodiversity. Number 2, to know the more sustainable way of living. Number 3, to use natural resources more efficiently. Number 4, to know the behavior of organisms under natural conditions. Number 5, to know the interrelationship between organisms in populations and the communities. Number 6, to make aware and educate people regarding environmental issues and the problems at local, national, and international levels. Creating awareness and understanding of the environmental system may help in responsible action and make better formulation of developmental objectives. Development of better environmental management depends on essential environmental consciousness and practice of environmental ethics in different stakeholders. It is not only the duty of government but also the people to take active role for protecting the environment. So protecting our environment is economically more viable than cleaning it up once it is damaged. To achieve these objectives, it is high time to incorporate environmental education at different levels of education system.